Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, or if you're new here, welcome to my channel. My name is Srish, and yes, I'm actually wearing a colour that can be described as bright. I'm as uncomfortable as you are. Today, the reason I'm wearing such bright colours is in honour of my theme for the month of March, which is... I thought, do you know what would be really fun? Would be to throw back to the 50s and the 60s when everything was like flashing lights and crazy noises and bright colors and people who were eating stuff to put on weight as opposed to starving themselves to not put on weight, you know, things like that. So I thought March would be the perfect month, seeing as it's International Women's Day on the 8th of March. And I wanted to use this video as a way to promote my podcast, because through all of March we are doing 3 episodes on 3 of the most influential women of all time in human history, and most of these lie, you know, back in the day. Most of these stories come from the 50s, 60s, one even from the 1800s. So once you're done with this, make sure you go and follow my podcast page or support it, whatever, so you do not miss out. And without much further ado, let's jump in. Alright, so I recently took an Instagram poll asking if you guys wanted to see more behind the scenes thought process and brainstorming clips, and a huge majority of you actually said yes. So this month I'm also putting in some pre-planning before we actually get to the planning proper. This month my only goal is to break the internet. I'm honestly tired of being a small influencer, and my motivation was to smash that glass ceiling. And the only thing connected to the word smash in my head is the Hulk, because Hulk smash. Obviously one thing led to another, and this month we are doing a cool retro comic-y themed plan with me. I want bold, bright colours, explosions and cheesy icons, and just an overall energetic, motivational theme. So I'm thinking all kinds of vibrant colours, strong fonts and little details that will really make my spreads pop. So now let's get into a better cemented idea of the theme. I took tons of inspiration from old cartoons, including the Jetsons. Shout out to Mridula, by the way, for guessing both my sources of inspo in like 10 seconds. Her Instagram handle is @BlueBulletJournal, so go check her out. But yeah, back to the video. I also love how old Marvel and DC comics show explosions and bold text within those explosions, so I did bring in a bit of that. And also, I had this amazing and also terrible idea of basically gessoing the page. Because I'm using bold colours and the paper in my journal is not equipped for heavy watercolour, I thought it would be genius to first lay down a layer of opaque white acrylic paint. See, in my head, I thought that even if it did bleed through, it would bleed through white. And it would likely form an impermeable layer so the watercolour wouldn't soak through my paper. So I thought for the cover page I'd try half the banner with this method and the other half would be control. And boy am I glad I started small, because although the principle worked, it ended up giving me a very streaky look where I'd laid down acrylic paint first. The water basically stays as a layer of its own on top, so in theory, the dried acrylic paint did prevent the water from soaking into the paper, but it also means that the water didn't blend. Kind of like how water behaves on raincoats, it just stays on top. So yeah, if you're considering gessoing your paper before watercolours, it won't work. It definitely works with ink and other acrylic paints on top, but definitely not watercolours. Okay, so I started by laying down flat washes of paint. Like I said before, I'm pretty much using multiple colours and not really sticking to a colour scheme as with every other month. And it does seem a little messy right now, but don't worry, it'll all make sense when we ink the lines in. And while you watch this, I just want to let you guys know that we now have 3 terms worth of art tutorials, which includes Photoshop painting tips, figure drawing basics, and the basics of drawing the human head, all of which you can access instantly by going to patreon.com/Srish and becoming a patron. The human head tutorial literally just went up yesterday, so it's all brand new. And I put in so much planning and energy into it. I really do hope you guys like it. Plus, you can grab some Ultra HD art, wallpapers, printables, worksheets, and a whole bunch of other cool stuff for artists. So make sure you head over to patreon.com/Srish. Link is in the description, and don't miss out on these super useful resources. Okay, so as you can see in the video, the page did flip on me while I had a paintbrush in the way, and we have a little streak of dark purple, and I would have worried and whiteouted the whole streak, but this month I'm trying to work on embracing imperfection. So we're going to use the teachings of our Lord and Saviour Bob Ross and turn it into a happy little cloud. So for now, I'm just letting it dry and we can come back to it in a second. So I chose to make a city that was inspired by the Jetsons because that is a heavily underrated cartoon and they need to bring it back. And also, have you guys heard of that conspiracy that the Jetsons and the Flintstones may have lived in the same era? Because like the Flintstones have all these weird technology things, right, that were only invented in modern times, but they have like an early caveman society. Maybe the Flintstones is set in a post-apocalyptic world. Yeah, Google that conspiracy, it ruined my childhood and I don't want to suffer alone. Please, I don't ask for much. And if you do Google it, comment below which part of the conspiracy ruined your childhood, or just which conspiracy in general ruined your childhood. So anyway, at this point I'm starting to add in some ink. I'm using the Uni Pin Fineliners in a combination of nib sizes. I love these because they're super pigmented, last ages, and the ink is actually genuinely waterproof. Plus, they are super smooth to write with, and they normally don't ghost or bleed through average notebook paper. No, this video is not sponsored, I wish. I just genuinely love these pens and will probably stick to them for the rest of my life. As with comic books, I decided to have chunky, bold letters that have a ton of personality, while also having that authentic hand-drawn look. So basically, they are not evenly sized or spaced, which I think gives the header so much character. And also keeping in tradition with old comic book inking techniques, I decided that a lot of my other headers and some of the inking itself this month would be painted in with a black ink brush pen. The one I'm using is the Sakura Pigma brush pen in black. This one says it has waterproof ink too, but full disclosure, I'm too chicken to test that out here. As you can see, the gold header is in a cloud, which I thought would be a cool way to really own those happy little clouds from before. Plus, I connected it to the buildings by making the little gold bullets into tiny clouds that look like smoke coming out of that blue building. Also, I added a tiny splash of green around the word smash because I love a good Easter egg. And by the way, a lot of people ask about a decent quality watercolor set that won't break the bank. The ones I use are the Sakura Koi travel set, and these are absolutely amazing. They are super pigmented, incredibly creamy, don't do that weird clumpy things that a lot of watercolor pans do, and they work really well with different levels of opacity. They blend together really nicely, and I feel like compared to a lot of other hobby level watercolors, these ones are probably the best I've used so far. Again, not sponsored at all, just my genuine opinion, I love these. Oh, and they are a mid-range price, somewhere between $50 and $30, so they're not like dirt cheap quality. The numbers for this month are pretty basic, and you've seen me do them 100 times, so I left that footage out. So instead you get to watch the super satisfying video of me drawing in some window details on the buildings. Enjoy! Okay, so what I've done is gone ahead and coloured in all the other spreads off camera. If I'd kept all of that in, this video would have been 3 hours long and your girl doesn't have the upload speed for that. But you're not missing out on much, it's mostly just the same flat colours. The real fun is in the inking. So the next spread is the tracker. And looking back, this is actually my personal favourite spread of them all. As I mentioned before, this is where we really get to see that ink brush header. Again, I kept that cool explosion theme, but with this spread, I actually thought of going even deeper into the comic look. So, you know how old comics have that halftone appearance? Like the old Archie comics used to have red halftone spots in Betty's skin and such? I thought of taking inspiration from that look and adding a gradient of dots that spread out from the edges of the header. To do this, you want to start with a few rows and columns of large dots, then continue the same rows and columns outwards, gradually reducing the size of these dots. The real beauty of this technique comes in when you vary the outer ends of the dot grid, like some rows and columns need to extend further out than others. This uneven edge of the grid gives you a cool shaded look because you don't really know where the grid ends. I love this halftone dots inspired spread. But yeah, the rest of the tracker is pretty basic, and I also put in a cool quote there because sometimes you need a little extra motivation, right? So my content spread is pretty basic too, because more than aesthetics, I need this particular spread to be very useful. I pretty much just made some color clouds for each of my content streams, YouTube, the art Patreon, and my podcast, which there is a link to in the description as well, by the way. I also made a date line to the left to actually put dates on each of these pieces of content. Next, we move on to my workflows for the month of March. I always make this spread without fail because it literally saves me so much time. Basically, it is the routine I follow while planning each week out. Because there is so much content to create, I like to block out certain days for certain content. If you're interested in learning more, I've linked my dedicated block planning tutorial up there in the cards, so you can check that out next if you want to. And the final spread for this month is a very basic think tank spread, or brain dump, whichever way you want to describe it. Pretty basic, I just need maximum space, and the whole thought bubble looks like a cloud idea also comes from comic book symbolism. So finally, we can move on to the final flip through of my spreads in March. And there you go, guys. I hope you've enjoyed this video. I really have. I love how this month turned out, and I hope you do too. And if you do recreate any of these spreads or this theme, then make sure you share it on social media, and I would love to repost it, give you the credit, get you followers, whatever. So tag me. It's at Srish Creates everywhere now. So that out of the way, if you have enjoyed this video, then please remember to leave me a big thumbs up so I know you like this theme, and I know you like to see more cool and fun and over the top themes like this one in future months as well. And if you have any requests, any comments, or just want to you know, share a stream of consciousness, then my comment section is always open. So drop by, say hello. This is literally as exciting as my day gets, so make sure you're a part of it. And make sure you hit that subscribe button down below so you do not miss any further uploads from me. And thank you so much for spending some time with me today. You know I love spending time with you, and I will see you again next week. Bye.